What's going on, guys? Welcome to my Descendant build series for the First Descendant. Today we're going over my builds for Blair.
So, what's my role? Cook? Or arsonist?
So Blair is a lot of fun to play, and he's very unique, especially with all the changes to his kit with his ultimate version. He is a fire attribute descendant that uses burning damage to dot enemies, as well as a special mechanic that allows him to restore his own MP by siphoning his flame zones. Let's quickly go over his abilities. Blair's passive skill is called Pitmaster, which grants him extra critical hit damage when attacking enemies inflicted with burn. He also gains extra skill critical hit rate proportionate to the number of flame zones you have out at the time, with a maximum of 5. His first ability is called Blaze Up, which places a patch of fire onto the ground at his feet. This is known as a flame zone. These cause burning damage to the enemy that enters and is part of Blair's unique MP regen mechanic. You can have a maximum of 3 flame zones up at a time by default. Blair's second ability, Extinguish, recovers MP based on the number of flame zones currently out on the field. Honestly, if you manage this correctly, you will never have MP issues while playing Blair. This ability is singular, so it also triggers the 30% additional attribute damage from the multi-talented mod, but more on that in a bit. His third ability, Burn Taste, acts as a frontal cone flamethrower that barbecues anything in its path. Note that this is a continuous ability that you can cancel at any time by simply pressing the ability button a second time. His last ability is called Deadly Cuisine. He will hurl a giant meteor at the ground in front of him, which causes explosive damage and creates its own giant flame zone. There are really only 2 transmods you'll want to focus on for Blair, if you're playing Ultimate, that is. There are alternates for those who are still playing normal Blair, and I will cover those in the build section for those that are interested. These 2 main transmods are Killer Recipe and Next Level Recipe. Killer Recipe changes all of his abilities except for his 3, the Flamethrower. Pitmaster changes into a Feast of Flavors, which alters the MP regen mechanic entirely. You now gain charges of Chef's Touch, a special resource. You get this every time you use your 1 or 3 ability. The higher number of charges, the more MP you will get back when using your second ability. Blaze Up changes into Spicy Meatball, which hurls multiple fireballs forward and grants charges of Chef's Touch. So, no more flame zones. Blair's second changes to Temperature Check, which pretty much does the same thing as before, only now it gives MP back proportionate to the number of Chef's Touch charges you have instead of flame zones like before. His third ability stays the same, with the exception it now generates charges of Chef's Touch. His fourth ability changes to Deadly Feast, which alters the one big meteor into multiple smaller ones. The number of meteors is determined by your charges of Chef's Touch at the time of execution, up to a maximum of 10. The execution of this ability is exactly the same as Sharon's 4. Box pops up, grabs the targets, you then use the fire button to launch them. Keep an eye on your Chef's Touch though, because you'll need those charges to regen your mana, so plan accordingly. All of his abilities are Dimension except for his 2, which is singular. So using the multi-talented mod will help maximize your damage output. Using 1, 3, and 4 will reduce your cooldown, while using 2 will give you a 30% extra damage to your fire attribute. The best rotation, in my opinion, is 1 and 3 until you have max Chef's Touch. Then press 2 to regen your mana, as well as proc the 30% attribute bonus, and follow that up immediately with 4 for maximum damage. Now, there are 2 different builds that you can use for mobbing. The first one uses Killer Recipe, and the mods for that are Focus on Dimension, Skill Insight, Focus on Fire, Skill Concentration, Multi-Talented, Emergency Measures, Skill Expansion, Nimble Fingers, increased HP, and MP conversion. Now, if you're not using Ultimate Blair, you can use Classic Chef in place of Killer Recipe, and the build still works perfectly fine, with the exception of changing the Chef's Touch mechanic, which is unique to Ultimate Blair, back to the Flame Zones, obviously. The second build uses Next Level Recipe. This changes Blair's first and third abilities. His first changes to Merciless Cuisine, which automatically leaves Flame Zones on the ground wherever you walk, similar to Viesa's Frost Road and Freyna's Venom Synthesis. His third becomes Hot Delivery, which alters his flamethrower into a wider frontal arc that gets up to 3 levels larger based on range. The rest of the build for this is Nimble Fingers, Front Lines, Skill Concentration, Focus on Fire, Multi-Talented, Battle of Stamina, Skill Expansion, Focus on Dimension, Increased HP, and MP Conversion. And if you're using normal Blair, you can swap out Next Level Recipe for Truly Deadly Cuisine instead. Here is the RK tuning for both of the mobbing builds. And you'll want to use the Fire Cohesion Mutant Cell. Note that this second build can also be used for bossing, especially against ice-based colossi, as seen here. Now, for more hardcore bosses, specifically ones that benefit from range, like Deathstalker, you'll want to use a more defensive build. The Killer Recipe Transmod, Nimble Fingers, Focus on Fire, Front Lines, Skill Concentration, MP Conversion, Battle of Stamina, Skill Expansion, Overwhelming Shield, Increased HP, and Focus on Dimension. And again, if you're not using Ultimate Blair, you can simply use Truly Deadly Cuisine instead of Killer Recipe. And here is the RK tuning you'll want to use when bossing. And you'll want to use the Burn Vulnerability Mutant Cell. For all of Blair's builds, you will want to use the Dimension Reactor. And for the external components, I use the Slayer set. This is how I have my Inversion Reinforcement set up. For the weapons, I have the Ancient Knight, the Last Dagger, and the Truly Deadly Arson. Occasionally, I even use the Malevolent as well. And here are the builds for those. Depending on the build that you're using and how good you are at the mana management, you really won't use your weapons that often. It's more for stylized things like mechanics where you need to shoot, the head to drop the thing or drop the ships, that kind of thing. But for the most part, you won't use your weapons. But it's entirely up to you. All in all, Blair is a lot of fun to play, and he's really powerful once you know what you're doing and understand what to bounce off of what and when. Managing your flame zones, Chef's Touch, MP regen, etc. He is an absolute beast at mobbing and quite good at bossing as well. Like I said, especially against the ice colossi like Frostwalker and whatnot. Check out my other Descendant build videos, and please feel free to ask any questions you may have about this build or about Blair himself. And that's it for this video, guys. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Later.